Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We apologize for the delay. We had a few of the GoToWebinar technical difficulties that come with the territory, but we're up and running. You are here today, as promised, for 5 sourcing hacks that do not work and 10 that do. Shally Steckerl is here, and he will guide you through each and every one of these. This is going to be more of an interactive webinar, so please stay tuned on the edge of your seat. Be ready for polls, questions, everything that you can, stay tuned. So let's go ahead while everyone is logging in and go through the plan. You are in listen only mode, which means that you can hear us, but we cannot hear you. That's okay. This is interactive. Please don't be shy. Use the questions bar in your side panel to communicate with Shally. Share. We're live. You can use the R Daily hashtag on Twitter, Facebook, Insta, wherever you are. Share the link to this webinar and people can go ahead and join even though we're going. We are recording. You will receive a copy of the slide deck and a link to the video after the webinar. There is also a bonus sheet at the end of the slide deck that's linked through. If you have any issues accessing that, please feel free to email me at ashley@recruitingdaily.com. I've dropped that in the chat for easy access. Today is brought to you by Glassdoor. We've worked with Glassdoor for a long time now. Awesome people. They are one of the world's largest job and recruiting sites. Job seekers on Glassdoor are well researched, more informed about the jobs and companies they apply to and consider joining. So thousands upon thousands of employers across every single industry and size turn to Glassdoor to help them recruit and hire quality candidates at scale who stay longer. So a huge, huge thanks to Glassdoor. Again, keep your eyes on your emails. You will get some educational download from Glassdoor as well. We also have Text Recruit here with us today. They are another longtime friends. We are powered by Text Recruit. So if you ever get a text message from us or an email, you'll see this. They are a candidate and employee engagement platform that uses text message, live chat, and AI to help you hire better people faster. They centralize all talent communications. They are the only platform that does this, allowing recruiters and HR to manage relationships with their talent throughout the entire employee lifecycle. So definitely check Text Recruit and Glassdoor out. Thank you so much to both of you. Okay, today we have Shally Steckerl here. Shally, I feel really, really intimidated speaking for you.
No.
Shally is a public speaker, educator. He has got a laundry list of credentials. Do you want to introduce yourself? I think you could do a much better job of that than I could. Just tell us about
I hate doing that. Don't make me do that.
Oh, okay. Well,
I hate introducing myself.
He is.
Wait, didn't we make a slide? Yeah, there we go.
We do. And he's known as the father of sourcing, and he is actually the father. This was not just like a willy-nilly nickname. You are the father of sourcing. Figuratively, literally.
Yeah, both. Something like that.
Yes.
Although I feel like the grandfather right now, but yeah.
No. And Shally has had the, let me start over. He heads the curricula of our HRTX recruiting and sourcing educational workshops. And this has been an amazing year for that. Thank you so much to Shally. It's been wonderful.
It's been a good time. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, do you want to go ahead and take over? Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. You want to hand over the presentation? Or
Awesome.
are you going to run it? You have to do the polls, right?
Yes, I'll do the polls. I'm going to go ahead and give you the mouse so we don't mess up our screen since GoToWebinar has the flu today. So you should have the mouse now, and you can click straight through.
I have the mouse.
Whoa.
Okay, 10 hacks that work and 5 that totally suck. So we have a poll system today to kind of get a survey of the audience, in a survey says kind of manner. So we'll be asking you to jump in and vote on each one of these. The first one of the day, the first, I guess, true or not true, is you can get all of the leads that you need in just 10 minutes a day using this sourcing platform. Insert blank, whatever you want to call it, iTool, Seekout, whatever you name it. Is it true that you can get all of the leads that you need in just 10 minutes a day? And so here's where you need to cast your vote. True or false? Let's just do maybe, I don't know, 30 seconds or something like that. So go ahead and cast your vote if it's true or false, and then we'll discuss. I don't get a vote, by the way, because, you know.
It looks like we're done answering, so I'll go ahead and close and see what the result is.
All right. So survey says false. All right. You guys are definitely on the money today. Yeah, that is correct. False. So there really is not going to be any single sourcing platform or tool that's going to be able to get you all of the leads that you're ever going to need. But let me give you a couple of quick tips. Generally speaking, after 22 years of running sourcing teams and building sourcing teams, I can tell you that for the most part, most of the time, again, it's an average I'm about to tell you, so take it with a grain of salt. But for the most part, you should have about 150 leads in order to make a hire. That's leads. That doesn't mean candidates that you've submitted or whatever. Now, in some positions, you might need 200 or 300 leads, depending on the level of difficulty and the volume. And you can also, if it's active candidates and not passive candidates, probably make do with fewer leads, like, 80 or so leads. But the industrial grade average, let's call it 150 leads per hire. So if you have 150 leads and about, I don't know, let's say half of them are contactable in some way, shape, or form. So you have a name, phone number, email address, whatnot, and the email gets delivered, it doesn't bounce, the phone number works, etc. About half of them, 150 divided by 2, basically 75. And then out of those 75, you should be able to get in touch with about 40. So now you have 40, quick conversations. This could be a quick, hey, interested, not interested. It could be a simple reply. Thanks for no thanks. It could be, I might know someone, etc. And out of those 40, about 50% of those should be longer conversations, but you actually maybe hop on the phone and do a phone screen. So now we've got about 20 people that you really speak with. And if, let's say, another half of those, at least, are people that you want to move forward with, after you talk to them, you screen them, then now you're looking at somewhere in the vicinity of about 10 candidates that you should have ready to submit, and a minimum of about 7. So from 150 to, let's say, 75 people you reach, 40 you hear from or get a reply from, 20 that you screen, and at least 7 to 10 of those that you submit. Typically, hiring managers like to interview about 5 to 7 people before they make a decision. You should have an answer. In other words, you should have a hire. How long does it take you to source 150 leads? Well, even if you're using a very sophisticated platform, think about it. You're probably not going to be able to do much more than 5 or 8, maybe 10 leads that you can generate per hour. If you're doing a lot more than that, then chances are that you're just doing high volume, and that's okay too. But if you're looking at, in 10 minutes, what could you do? You're not really going to be able to just download 150 leads that turn into 7 interviews in 10 minutes, no matter what platform it is. So don't buy that, BS, whatever it is. So any questions on any of that before we move on to audience question number 2? I am monitoring chat, by the way, but I don't see any questions coming in there. I don't see the Q&A. So Ashley, if you're seeing Q&A, let me know if there's any.
We don't have any questions on this one yet, but I will send those your way as we go.
Sweet. All right. So let me click on it's next one. Not letting me click. Can you go to the next one? Ah, there we go. Oh, how did we get to 3 already? What happened to 2? Ah, there it is. Okay. The best keywords for any search are job title, company name, jargon, and location. True or false? Let's go ahead and see the poll on this one. So again, the best keywords for any search, think about most searches that you're going to do. Is it job title, company name, jargon, and location. Are those for the best keywords that you need, or not? True or false? The best keywords for any search are job title, company name, jargon, and location. And to explain what jargon is for those of you that might be scratching your head, let's call that, skills or keywords, which could be software, tools, language, technology. It could be a type of machinery. It could be a type of process. So basically the buzzwords. So we've got the job title, the company name, the buzzword keywords, and the location. So what does the survey say? Survey says, we are split on this one, 50-50. All right, so here's the deal. If you go to a homogeneous database like your ATS or Monster, Career Builder, Indeed, any place where it's just resumes, any keyword that you put in is going to bring you back resumes. So as long as the database is full of just resumes, then you really don't need anything much more sophisticated than a keyword, because everything that's in there in that database is a resume. Therefore, you're only going to get resume results. But here's the catch. When you go on the web and Google or Bing, in places where you're searching what is a non-homogeneous database, where everything that's in the database is not a resume, then when you just put in keywords that are on a rec, what you're going to find are other recs, meaning that if you use the jargon or the skills or the buzzwords that are in the rec, the results that you're going to get from Google are similar to what you're searching for, which are recs. So you're searching for recs, you're going to find recs. So this isn't a trick question, but when you're searching on the wild web, when you're searching on the internet, you're not looking for resumes in a homogeneous resume database. So it's not your LinkedIn or your Career Builder or Indeed or whatever. This combination of 4 keywords is magic. It is absolutely magic. What you need is the commonly accepted job title, so database engineer or tax manager or tax accountant or restaurant manager or retail manager, whatever that is. And you can actually use multiple versions of these job titles if there's common variations. So manager of tax, tax manager, finance manager, tax, etc. That's one. If you add to that the name or names of companies that do or hire these kinds of people, so companies that are, for example, auditors or companies that do tax audit and things like that, you put that in as well. And you also add some sort of jargon, which could be any standard or software or anything like that. And the fourth piece that you want to add is some sort of geographic indicator, like a city name. If you use that, so for example, if you were to go to Google and type in tax manager in quotation marks, so open quotation, tax manager, close quotation marks, then space Deloitte, then space international transfer pricing, and then space Atlanta, and hit enter, you'll start getting accurate results and profiles. Not all of them. You're not going to have 100% accuracy, but it's a really good start. So if you have those 4 things, you don't need to get fancy with all kinds of Boolean strings and advanced commands. Just by having job title, company name, some sort of technical phrase or jargon, and a city or state or phone number or zip code, much less likely these days with zip codes, by the way, so maybe not that one, but city names and state names, or if you're doing this internationally, country names, you will get really good results. So the answer on this one is true. The best keywords for any search on the web, not just resume searches in your ATS, but any search, are job title, company name, jargon, and location. Let's see what we have for number 3.
We do have
and
a question.
Any questions? Yeah.
We do have a question. Are we able to give an example of this, or would it take too much time? And I know we're having some issues with screen sharing during this, but is there, are you able to give an example if I swap the screen over to you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's see if it works. The reason we were hesitant is because when I tried to share my screen, it wasn't working, but give it a try. Bring it over here and I'll do screen share.
Okay, you have got the screen, so
show my screen.
We appreciate
Play.
your patience here. We've had a little bit of issue with screen sharing, so.
Okay, I hit the share my screen. And, is it
It's
showing
still,
yet?
no, unfortunately not. I'm not sure what's going on there. Well, do you have any resources we can refer back to for examples after the webinar?
Yeah, here, why don't you go to Google and I'll tell you what to type.
Okay.
Take presenter back and I'll tell you exactly what to type. It's pretty simple.
Okay.
So just open up a Google window, and then those of you at home, feel free to play along, and then you can, change some of the criteria. So go to Google and type in,
Oops,
we'll
trying to
just
get
do,
back here. And I'm going to show screen.
yep, I can see the
Again,
slides again.
very much appreciate patience here. All right.
Is it letting you share a,
Yeah, it's giving me a hard
no?
time here. Let's see what I can do. Exit. Okay, here we are. So let's
There
just
you
go to
go. Yeah,
Google.
okay. I can see your screen now. Okay, so type in tax manager, but with quotation marks to the left and to the right. So open
So
quotation, tax manager. Yep. Tax space manager. Close quotations. Then space and do KPMG.
KPNG.
KPMG. Yeah, and with the
Okay.
as in mark. KPMG.
Okay.
Good. Now space and then international, for example. I'm literally making this up as we go. And then space Atlanta.
Okay.
Now hit
And
enter.
then, okay.
Okay, so the first set is Google's jobs because they're advertising their job postings. But if you scroll down a little bit on your results, you'll start seeing there are lists, for example, of people on different. So there's a LinkedIn result, even though we didn't ask for LinkedIn. And if you want to narrow this down, a couple of things that you can do to further drill down would be to add more specific. So instead of international, add transfer pricing, for example, and that'll be more narrow because this is bringing back a ton of results and nobody has time to look at, 3 million. So just add transfer pricing, 2 words.
Transfer pricing.
Pricing, yep.
Okay.
And hit enter.
Okay.
Okay,
And
that's
you do
better.
have control of my mouse, so you can scroll through here yourself
Oh,
if you'd like to.
okay.
There you go.
Let me see. There we go. Right. So you start to see things like this, where it's at the very last here, and I just randomly picked on it. It said, Transfer Pricing Wealth and Risk Management blog. Patrick J. Brown is Managing Director of KPMG. Previously, he worked as International Tax Manager for VeriSign. So this is exactly what you're going to find. And so here in this page, there are several people being mentioned, including Emily Sanborn, who are in this business. And so just something as simple and basic as this will already start to bring you back good quality results. You can continue drilling down by adding, say, for example, pronouns, and that's going to allow you to bring back only bios. So you could do he or she, and that'll bring back pages that are people being talked about and narrow this down because 27,000 is still a lot. And you can see here's a few, top tax author list from Bloomberg Tax. Here's that blog that we were talking about. Here's Alan Kruger. Here's a speaker directory from the federal bar, and so on. So that's just an example of how the magic comes together when you put those things together. A common job title, a company name, and you can change the Deloitte, KPMG to Deloitte or PwC or VeriSign or whatever, and you'll get different results. So that's it. We're ready to go back to the slides now.
Awesome. Cool.
See if I can do it myself here.
Oh, you
Yeah,
probably
there it is.
can.
All
Are
right.
you up for a few more questions before we move on?
Yeah,
Okay.
great.
So
Yeah.
would you call this natural language search?
Yes, this is a type of natural language search. That is correct.
Okay, fantastic. And someone said they mentioned that they didn't notice anyone from KPMG in those results. I don't know if that's something we can address here or.
Yeah, at the bottom, the one from the blog, it had 3 or 4 people mentioned in it. One of them was a KPMG person who was a managing director of tax at KPMG.
Okay, fantastic. And we have quite a
If
few
that
questions.
does happen, just to go further on that, if that does happen where you're putting in a keyword like KPMG and you're not getting any results, sometimes Google just omits it. And if it does, it should have a link inside of the search results. Let's see if I can pull that up, where it says must include. And so you can click on that, or just include that word in quotation marks. So if you're looking for KPMG and KPMG is not coming up, surround KPMG in quotation marks and do the search again, and that should force Google to actually include KPMG.
Okay, great. Well, we have a ton more questions, but if it's okay with you, I'll just hold some of these to the end. Is that fine with you, Shally?
Great.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
great.
good. I'm good to go. So let's take a look at number 3 here. The next question is, yeah, go ahead. True or false, Boolean strings and nested logic beat forced phrases in natural language every time? Survey says, so the question is, do you think it is true that Boolean strings and nested logic are going to beat forced phrases in natural language when it comes to search? True or false? So vote true if you think Boolean strings are better. Vote false if you think natural language is better.
Ooh, we started off swinging one direction and it has rapidly changed. This is cool.
I wonder
These
if it's
polls
something
are
I
fun.
said. How are we
Okay,
looking?
it's slowing down.
Slowing
All
down.
right,
We got a
close it
majority.
out.
Close the
Here
poll.
we
All
go.
right, so let's see. Survey
And
says, oh, that's an sort of even split with the majority going towards false. Yeah, it's false. That would be correct, because the short answer is that Boolean strings used to work back when there wasn't as much information on Google. But with so much content being indexed by the major search engines like Google and Bing, the Boolean strings don't work as well anymore. And so long nested logic with lots of parentheses and lots of ors, and a lot of the field search syntax that you use, like in title and in URL, sometimes it works, but it's inconsistent. And in many cases, search engines are beginning to abandon advanced search ability because they found that the general population, grandma basically using the internet, looking for recipes, searches for only 3 keywords max. So basically, to reiterate, most people that use Google and Bing are looking for apple pie recipe or 1997 red Corvette. And that's it. So because of that, they found that supporting these complex searches was not really a good payoff. So they're actually doing a lot more guessing. They're trying to infer what you might mean when you're doing a search, which means that they are sometimes ignoring what you type into the search box. They're sometimes removing functionality that used to exist that no longer exists. And we see that slowly eroding away, leaving us with essentially these long Boolean strings that people used to have, copied in their Word documents and Excel spreadsheets, are really not as effective. In fact, are diminishing in effectiveness quite rapidly. So what's the new thing? Well, the new thing is essentially what we talked about: natural language, job title, company name, jargon, location, or forced phrases. A forced phrase is when multiple words, 2 or more words, have to appear together in order to give that search some kind of meaning. A very good example of a forced phrase is quite simply just a job title. If I'm an SAP database consultant, those 3 words appearing together in that order are a forced phrase. Other forced phrases are phrases that are significant to what I do. So for example, if I write code, those 2 words together, write and code, appearing adjacently, mean that I'm a programmer, a software engineer, because those are the only kinds of people that write code. there are many other jobs that include the word code or include the word write, but not with those two things together like that. So your homework then is to go and figure out what are the 2 or 3 word phrases that your candidates do. Accountants, for example, file quarterlies. Salespeople exceed quota. And it doesn't have to be 2 words, it could be 3. But those are forced phrases, and that's really much more effective these days than your nested logic and Boolean sentences. True or false? You should not click until you have 10 pages of results and at least 10% of them are viable, meaning don't click on anything in your search until you have 10 pages and 10% of them look like something you might want to click on. Is that true or false? Should you start clicking at the first sign of a result? When you get a result, should you just click on it and, hurry up and call that candidate and email that candidate? Or should you wait until you have a few pages of good quality results and at least 10% of them look good? True or false? Should you click before you have 10 pages of results and 10% viable?
Okay, here we go. And
Surveys. False. All right. That's actually pretty good. So here's the thing. The way I look at it is I know that I need 150 leads on average. And so if I'm going to get 300 results on a page, let's say that I'm searching Google and I have my settings configured to get 100 results per page, which is basically the maximum. So if you go into your Google search, on the top right-hand side, there's a little cog you can click on and configure it so that it shows you 10, 20, 50, or 100 results per page. Max it out to 100, and then you'll have 100 results in one page. When you look at 3 pages, that's 300 results. So my magic number is 50%. In other words, when I have at least 50% of the links on the first page, let's just keep it real simple and count the first 10 links, okay? If I look at the first 10 links and 5 or more of them look like something I would click, I don't click on it, I just count real quick from 1 to 10, and how many of those are clickable. If it's 5 or more, then I know that my search is good. If it's less than 5, then I know that my search is bad. So the example that I showed you for KPMG and Tax Manager was a bad example because I had to go all the way to the bottom of the page with 10 results to look at something that was good, which means only 1 out of 10, and that's 10%. I would keep working on my search without clicking on anything until at least 5 out of 10 are, at least on paper, look like something I would want to click on. That doesn't mean that these are going to be candidates that you actually, submit, but they're pages that are worth your time visiting. That's the magic. So 50% quality in the first 10 results means your search is good. Less than 50% quality, you might want to rethink adding some keywords or tweaking your search a little bit. Number 5, you can search the entire internet with search engines. Is it true or is it false? Can you search the entire internet with Google and Bing or not? Survey says, can't wait to see this one. Ooh, wow, we got a sharp audience today. That is false. In fact, most experts that talk about the coverage of search engines will tell you that it's actually a very small percentage. I've read numbers like 0.04% of the internet has been indexed by search engines. And this is going to continue to grow. Why? Because the ability for people to create content, think of every LinkedIn page, every Facebook page, every Twitter post, and all the technologies that are out there, video, blogs, etc. The ability to create content is rapidly exceeding the ability to index that content. So search engines kind of gave up on the concept of trying to find every page on the internet. Now they're focusing on quality. which means that if you wanted to find everything on the internet, you couldn't really do it with a search engine. There's a couple of limitations that also are involved. One, for example, is that if you were to store a copy of everything on the internet, you would have to actually physically put it somewhere. And although you might think, well, gee, Shally, data doesn't take up a lot of space, it doesn't, but it does take up some space. So keeping a copy of everything on the internet would actually be physically very expensive. And then, of course, you have to maintain that machine or those machines to keep those copies of the internet, and that costs money too, to run the power and back them up and keep them cool and all that stuff. So it's just prohibitively expensive, which means that when you go to Google or Bing, you're really not searching the internet. You're just searching whatever Google decided is important. Pretty neat, huh? So let's move on to the 6th question. It's not letting me click. Can you click for me?
There you are.
Okay, so using -jobs is an effective way to eliminate job postings from your Google search results. Is this true or false? Using -jobs is an effective way to eliminate job postings from Google search results. That's a -jobs, or another way of saying it is not jobs, just the word jobs. Ooh, that was fast. Oh my goodness, wow, we have a lot of people saying that that's true. Well, actually, this is one of those sourcing hacks that don't work. What you want to do, if you want to eliminate jobs, instead of using -jobs, is use one of the field search syntax, or both. For example, in title or in URL. You can remove the results of search engine results for example, -in title : jobs, or -in URL : jobs, and that would be much more effective. But really, the best thing to do is to use natural language like job title, company name, jargon, location, and ask for exactly what you want. Because here's the problem. If you say -jobs, you are telling the search engine that you don't want to get those pages that have the word jobs in it. Imagine if the candidate that you're looking for has a profile or a blog or an About Me page, and it says, hey, I'm a software engineer. At my previous jobs, I've worked at this and that company. Well, the word jobs appears on that bio, and you just eliminated that search result because you told Google not to bring back anything that had the word jobs in it. So don't throw out the entire word jobs anywhere on the page, only when it appears on the title of the document or the address of the document. If it's a career site like, company.com/jobs, and you use -in URL : jobs, then you're only going to eliminate the pages that are job postings, but not the pages that are bios. And if it's the title, as in, today's jobs or whatever, then -in title : jobs would work. But don't ever use -jobs by itself, because you're essentially throwing away a lot of really good content for no reason. All right, number 7. Hey, it's working now. Cool. You can find most LinkedIn profiles through Bing without even having a LinkedIn account. True or false? Can you find most LinkedIn profiles using the Bing search engine without even having a LinkedIn account? Or do you have to have a LinkedIn account, or can you not use Bing to do that? So basically the question is, if you think you can find most LinkedIn profiles through Bing without a LinkedIn account, select true. If you think that that's inaccurate, select false. I bet you this one's going to be a quick one too.
It's still moving. I think the quick one comment kind of threw somebody off. Okay, here we go.
Highly debated then. Let's go.
Highly debated.
Survey says true. Wow, that is true. Yes, you can. So Bing actually is a really good search engine for finding LinkedIn profiles because it has a deeper search. So you might have heard this before where some people will say something to the effect of Google searches wider and Bing searches deeper, but they may not explain what that means. Bottom line is this: Bing decided when they created their search engine algorithm that structurally they're going to look at the first 500 lines of text of any page that the spider lands on. So basically, Bing, the search engine, reads the first 500 lines of any document when building an index or a table of contents of the internet. Google, on the other hand, is limited to 250, which means about half. So as a result, sometimes the more specific nature of what we're searching for in a candidate appears further down the page of a LinkedIn profile. And because of that, Bing tends to be able to bring back more accurate results. Both search engines are good if you use the say:/linkedin.com search technique on either one. But at the end of the day, Bing does have a deeper index or more lines of text on each profile that it finds. And you might also find that because Bing is also owned by Microsoft, there may be a little bit of favoritism there as well. Can't blame them for that, can we? So yes, you're right. You can find most LinkedIn profiles through Bing without even having a LinkedIn account, much less a paid account. How about that? Number 8. Let's see here. They let me do it last time, and now it's not letting me do it. Okay. Use negative keywords to filter. Okay, thanks. So true or false, use negative keywords to filter out all the bad results. So in other words, when you're getting garbage results, should you use negative keywords, as in minus, to filter out all the bad results? Is that true or false? So it's the same as minus and the not Boolean. In some databases, you might use and not. In some databases just use not, not. Either way, when you're using Boolean, make sure you always capitalize, capital N, capital O, capital T. And in some cases, like Google and Bing, they do support the M dash, which is the minus sign. And you want to put that adjacent to the word without any spaces. So like in the example for minus jobs, would be minus jobs with no space. Can you use negative filters to filter out all of the bad results? True or false?
We are still going. And just so everyone knows, I do see your questions. We'll do our very best to get to these by the end, but we still have quite a few hacks to go through. So we want to make sure we don't miss those. Okay, here we are.
Survey says false. That's right. That false is correct. The reason why that is correct is because negative terms often have the opposite effect than what you would expect. In other words, just like we talked about with jobs, you might be eliminating good quality results. So although you can use negative search keywords and remove results, you should limit it to only in cases when you are absolutely sure that what you're removing from the search isn't accidentally going to also be in quality content that you do want to find. So it's best to use keywords that you want to find on a page and not try to filter out too much garbage with negative search terms. It would be better to spend a little bit of time identifying forced phrases or natural language search in order to improve your search results than it would be to try to waste a bunch of time trying to filter out all the garbage. Think about it like this. If your spouse sends you on a grocery store run and she says, hey, honey, can you please get some breakfast food? And then you say, what kind of breakfast food do you want? Would you say, well, definitely not bacon, not potatoes, not eggs, not cereal, not oatmeal, not sausage, not hash browns, or do you actually say, well, let's see, get some biscuits, right? So that's what I want you to do is I want you to get biscuits. Think about what is it exactly that you want and search for that instead of focusing on trying to come up with a list of all the things that you don't want because there's just too much information. That is another one of those techniques that used to work when the search engines did not return as many results, when there weren't as many pages back in the day. But nowadays, removing negative keywords or using negative keywords is actually not as effective. So we need to kind of relearn. There we go. Uh-oh, Chris, this time it worked, and now I did it twice there. So number 9, true or false? With LinkedIn Recruiter, you can find anyone who's on LinkedIn. Is this true or not true? With LinkedIn Recruiter, the most premium paid account on LinkedIn, is it true that you can find anyone on LinkedIn? True or untrue? True or false?
Wow, you all are fast. These votes go up like lightning. This is great. We should do this more often. This is a lot of fun, the polls.
Cool. Yeah, I hope people are having fun with it. Do we have enough for a survey says?
Almost. I think we're gonna have to survey says right now. Here we go.
All right. So with LinkedIn Recruiter, can you find anyone on LinkedIn? True and false. Actually, it's false. So the falses have it. For those of you that voted true, unfortunately, you are being misled by LinkedIn's advertising. Here's the stark reality. If a user, like your potential candidate, chooses to not be found inside of search results within LinkedIn, which is a privacy setting they have the right to choose, then no amount of money should allow us to violate that person's privacy. Now, LinkedIn doesn't disclose this. They tell you that if you buy the Recruiter account, you can find anyone on LinkedIn, but in the fine print, what it says is anyone that wants to be found. So there's two things that are happening here. When a user changes their privacy to not be found in in LinkedIn search results, they also have to go to a second area and ask to not be found by search engines. It's two different places, two different settings. So most people that are trying to reduce the amount of spam that they get on LinkedIn will go into their settings and change the I don't want to be found in search results setting to on, which blocks them from coming up in LinkedIn Recruiter searches. But it does not necessarily block them from being indexed by Google and Bing, which means that those profiles can still be found online for free with no LinkedIn Recruiter account, even if you actually cannot find them inside of LinkedIn Recruiter. So once again, false. You cannot find anyone on LinkedIn if you pay, because you can't pay to violate people's privacy, quite simply. So let's move on to number 9. Ashley, are we stuck?
Are you seeing the change?
Not yet.
No?
At least not on my end.
Let's try going backwards and then back. How's that? GoToWebinar is giving us a really hard time today.
Yeah, it's a bad day for GoToWebinar. So we should be on question.
The poll.
Yes, so we're on question number 10, right?
There you are.
Which is, okay, there we go. Google is better than Bing for scraping public LinkedIn profiles. I kind of already gave you a hint on this one, so let's launch it just to see if everyone was paying attention. Is Google better than Bing for scraping public LinkedIn profiles? Now, the difference between this and what I was asking before is with Bing being able to see up to 500 lines within a document, it does capture more information from what's on a profile. But this is about scraping. So there's a bunch of scraping tools out there that can grab public LinkedIn profiles. Is it true that Google is better than Bing? And of course it is not. You should still use Bing for that, although most people still use Google. So let's go ahead and look at number 11. Number 11 is true or false. Should you hyper-personalize your outreach to improve response rates? True or false? Now, pay attention to the nuance here. Should you hyper-personalize? Meaning, personalizing an email is something like saying, hi, Larry, comma, and then your email. But what we're talking about here is hyper-personalization, which is a technique that is often talked about in webinars of the sort where they're talking about, looking at their profile and mentioning stuff from someone's profile, like, oh, I noticed that you like to read science fiction, and your daughter graduated from Wesleyan, so did my daughter, whatever, those kinds of things. So hyper-personalization goes beyond your typical first name, company, title type of personalization. True or false? Hyper-personalization of your outreach improves response rates. False. Wow. Although we have a little bit of a debate here, a slightly smaller than half of the population feels like hyper-personalization does improve your response rates. And this actually does have a little bit of, let's just say, context around who you're reaching out to. But at the end of the day, when you personalize by adding, for example, a name and a title and a company name, that is usually, and I say usually for the most part, enough to obtain their attention because it shows that you are, taking care of the details. If you go beyond that and hyper-personalize in some industries, not in all, but in some industries, it does tend to have a negative effect in where people might start to feel like they're maybe being stalked or, maybe you're reading too much about them. Now, which industry is going to depend obviously on your experience, but generally speaking, people that are in the space of, technology or marketing or sales, where they're used to having information about them more publicly shared, are not going to have an issue with hyper-personalization. But in some spaces where, people are going to be surprised at just how much is really out there on them, it can actually have negative impact. So bottom line is this: do as much as you need to in order to get results, and you do need to personalize a little bit. Going too much beyond that is kind of an on as needed basis. You don't have to go super far to get results. What about response rates? True or false? 40% response rate is the best you can do. True or false? 40%. So when you send out 100 emails, should you aim to get maybe 40 replies, or 100 emails, 40 replies? Is that the best you can do? Is that the best anyone can do? I wish I had a way to do a poll and ask you what kind of response rates you're actually getting instead of, true or false. Wouldn't it be neat to be able to say, are you getting, 10, 20, 30, 40%? Maybe we should do that on the next one.
I think we
But
have
for now,
an
let's just see.
entire audience of optimists, just like
We do? That's good. I like optimism.
as a sneak peek. This is great. Okay,
Awesome.
I'm going to launch our share rather.
That's
Here
cool. I love it. Yeah, false. That's right. Yes, you can definitely do much better than 40%. Unfortunately, with InMail, especially with InMail, response rates are declining rapidly. And part of the reason for that is because people are opting out to get the email or the InMail emailed to them. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but in your LinkedIn settings, you can choose to have an InMail forwarded it to you as an email. And more people are choosing to not do that, which means that for them to be able to get the message and read it and respond to it, they actually have to log into LinkedIn. And if they haven't logged in 2 weeks, your message to them is just sitting there in their inbox inside of LinkedIn. So this does explain why a few people have come up to me and said something to the effect of, I've received a response from someone on LinkedIn as much as 6 months or even a year later. I've got a funny story about that. So my record is about 2 months ago, I received a reply from a candidate that I had contacted. On that day that I received the response, I had contacted that candidate 666 days prior. What a creepy number, right? Exactly 666 days before the person sent me a response, and their response said, sorry, it took me so long to respond, but wondering if you have any job opportunities still available. And I'm like, wow. I emailed my team and I said, hey guys, do you think I should wait 666 days to reply, or should I reply right now? So this explains, partly why that is. But another thing that's happening is with your regular email, you might actually have higher than what you expect response rates. Let me explain why. Some CRMs and other systems that track open rates are giving you a number that represents the percentage of people that reply compared to, or the percentage of people that click or open compared to the percentage of people that you sent the message to. So in other words, let's say that you're contacting 100 people and your CRM is telling you that 40% of them opened or clicked your email. What they're not telling you is what percentage of those 100 never received the email, because there's really very little way of knowing unless you have some controls in place that allow you to essentially check email in a multiple of different servers. Now, there are some pretty sophisticated companies that do that, and when I've done this testing before, I've received as much as 50% deliverability, or as little, I should say, which means that if I sent an email to 100 people and only 50 of them actually got the message and 40 of them clicked and opened it, that's not 40 out of 100, that's 40 out of 50. So your response rates or your deliverability rates might actually be better than you're expecting. Make sure that you're also looking at the percentage of your emails that are actually getting to the inbox. Because if they're being deleted before the inbox, or if they're going to the spam or clutter or junk or whatever folder, or in Google, it's going to the updates tab or the social tab or whatever, then you really can't count that because they never received it. So the response rate may be better than what you expect. And yes, you can definitely do much better than 40%. Second to last one, nobody uses email anymore. That's why you should send LinkedIn emails. True or false? Nobody uses email anymore. True or false?
Oh, this one's stuck. It's
Is
locked.
it?
Yep. Okay, closing in 3, 2, 1.
Were we able to get some? So it
Oh
looks
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
okay. All right.
Quick votes.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, obviously we already talked about this, so we don't need to explain it. But yes, the reality is that if anything is declining, it's actually the use of emails because of what we talked about. I don't really see email themselves declining, but I will also add that texting and text messages are certainly increasing in acceptability, and so more and more people are choosing to receive their communication that way. So, let's just say in-mail's going down and texting going up. Maybe email is, not necessarily going up or down, but it's still certainly a viable method. All right, second to last one, 2 more to go. Number 14 is sorry for the mystery, y'all. Number 14.
There we are.
Free Chrome extensions. Awesome. Free Chrome extensions give you people's email addresses from LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter profiles. True or false? Free Chrome extensions give you people's email addresses from LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter profiles. Is this true? Now I hope you can stay the extra minute so that we can look at that very last question.
That last one, we've done really well. This is a lot of information in a short time frame. So it's fantastic. Okay, I think we've slowed down. So launching.
Survey says free Chrome extensions give you people's addresses from LinkedIn. Oh, most of you think it's true. Unfortunately, this is a fake one. What actually happens is that there's 2 things that these Chrome extensions do that you need to know about. Number 1 is they will guess email addresses. So very similar to you and I thinking, oh, well, Shally works at Motorola, and people that work at Motorola use the first name dot last name at mot.com address. So a lot of times these extensions are really just guessing. And that's okay. It's not great, but it's no different than you guessing. They should be telling you if they're guessing or not. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Some extensions are better at that than others. So don't just take their word for it. And the second thing that you need to know about, and this is not applicable to all extensions, but there are many out there that on Chrome, when you add the extension to your account, it'll ask you for permission. And if you read the permission closely, it says, do you want to allow this extension to have access to your Gmail? And most of you probably don't even give that a second thought and just accept and install the app. But here's the problem. Those apps are actually accessing your Gmail, and in some cases, with a few other apps, something even worse. And they are harvesting the email addresses and phone numbers for people out of your email. So in other words, they're not getting someone's email address from their LinkedIn page. They're getting it from your Gmail account. And then they're sharing it with everybody else. And the second part of that is the ones that are even worse are scraping it from every single web page that you open, because if you look again at the fine print, that extension says you're giving this extension access to your browser and your Gmail. And when they say you have the extension has access to your browser, that means that if you are opening a candidate's resume or profile in your applicant tracking system, it's scraping that information, the phone number and email address, which, as you all know, is confidential because that is someone who applied on your website for your job. But these companies are using your ATS data and your email data to harvest your candidate's contact information. Again, they don't all do that. There are some that are very clean. Seek Out, for example, does not do that. They buy their data from reputable vendors like Full Contact, which is now Contacts Plus, and Clearbit, and 5 or 6 others. So I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of them. And what you need to do is just pay attention to the fine print. If it says you're giving this app or a Chrome extension access to your Gmail and to your browser, they're stealing your candidate's information from you. That's what they're sharing with other people. All right, and finally, the 15th true or false question is, referrals are the best source of hire, true or false? There might be some heated debate about this one. As you fill this out, hopefully before you leave, for those of you that are still here, once we finish today, we're going to be sending you an email with some notes from today. And also, as a bonus, you will get a list of my favorite tools, the ones that don't steal your information and the ones that really do what they say they're going to do. It's a list of my top 14, I think it is, applications, extensions, etc. And some of them have free trial and discount codes and things like that included. So you will be getting that as a bonus for participating in today's webinar. So are referrals the best source of hire, true or false? Survey says true. Yay, by a long shot. So a lot of the opinion around referrals being the best source of hire comes from the longevity of the hires. So if a company is able to track the fact that someone who was referred in stayed longer with the organization, that's how they're measuring quality. And this is a popular opinion. So what that means for us in sourcing is that we actually should proactively source referrals. How do you source referrals? There's a number of ways. If you use any kind of background checking service and they provide references, you have every right to contact those references and ask them if they would like to join your talent network. So you're not, necessarily overtly recruiting someone's references, but you certainly can send them an email that says, hey, thank you for being a reference for so-and-so. I'd like to invite you to join our talent network so you can stay updated, with information about our company. And it's totally voluntary, right? But that's a good way to source referrals. And there's another way. When you are contacting candidates and you send them instructions or directions or anything like that, you can also include a appeal to them, a brief message in that email message that says, hey, before I go, or before I wrap up here or whatever, something like that, would you mind telling me, if you were to hire someone for this role, who would be your choice? Who would you pick? And that's a really easy way to ask for a referral without necessarily asking for a referral. And people kind of get a little sensitive about that, especially if they're an active candidate. They go, why am I going to give you someone that, is going to compete with me? But if you ask it the right way, and that's just one of the ways you can ask, you'd be surprised how many times somebody will reply back and go, that's a good question. I know so-and-so, and they might give you a name. So with that, I leave you. Hopefully you enjoyed our Jeopardy game today, our true and false game. And I'm happy to stay on and answer a few questions for those of you that would like to stay with me here. And I can certainly stay for a few minutes here and deal with any Q&A that came in.
We do have quite a few questions. We may not be able to get to all of them. We'll have to hop off in just a few minutes if that's okay with you, Shally. But you are all welcome to send questions directly to Ashley@RecruitingDaily.com, and I'll do my best to make sure all of those are answered. Let's take a look. See. Can you tell us later, just regarding the last hack, which to be careful with? Yes, I used Data Miner, Hire Tool, and WinX.
Sorry, the question was what? Are these?
Are there any specific tools that people should be really careful with regarding security?
Yeah, regarding the security. Yeah, so there are quite a few. Basically, what you want to do is go into the app and look at what permissions it's requested. And if it's requested permission to look at your Gmail, bottom line is it doesn't need that. Okay, so a Chrome extension does not need to see your Gmail in order to provide you an email address from their database. The only reason they need to see your Gmail is to get email addresses and contact information from you. So that's the easiest way to go. Go into the fine print of that Chrome extension and look at what it's been granted access to. Seek Out, which is one example, does not look at your Gmail. It does not read your Gmail, and nor does it need to. If they're buying email addresses from reputable vendors and they're going to provide that to you, they're going to give that to you without the need for looking at your inbox. And another way you can tell is if you go into a tool like Seek Out or Zap Info or whatever, it's going to provide email addresses for profiles whether or not they are coming from your extension. So you can literally log into this tool and request email addresses for people, even if you don't have the Chrome extension installed. That's another good indicator that they're not, spying on your candidate data. So good question.
Actually, it looks like the audience is beginning to log out. I think everybody has to get back to work, but we can do one more question. Let's see. Lots and lots of thank yous coming in for you, Shally. So thank you so much for all of this.
My pleasure.
Let's see. There are 50 questions.
Well, I'm happy to answer those later. So yeah, go ahead.
Yes, if that's okay, if that's all right, we might have to hop off. It looks like everything is jumping. I have a toddler in the background who just started screaming, but we're about 10 past the hour. Please send your questions directly to Ashley@RecruitingDaily.com. This is the bonus slide. If you click on the link that says Shally's favorite tools, it will take you to a PDF download. That should, if you have any trouble accessing this since it's via Google, just let me know and I'll send you the download directly in email. This is really cool. All the links work. It's a really, really great sheet. Thank you so much for everything, Shally.
You're welcome, and happy to answer the questions later. You can send them out to folks in notes. Thanks, everybody.
Definitely.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks. Have a wonderful evening. And thanks again for all your patience with our GoToWebinar technical difficulties. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.